So earlier in the previous session, we had actually run the code from Visual Studio Code. Now I have some points to share with you on the API, but before what this API is all about, let us start with what we want to demonstrate to you. We want to demonstrate how you can use Moodle to run this software, like from Moodle, how you can go and do this software. I will very quickly like to have a short poll. I'm just asking this simple question. Have you used virtual programming lab of Moodle in your uh, laboratory sessions? So if you go to MIDAS hackathon page, you'll find that we have given this example over here on how to make the submission for the hackathon. If you're having any doubts in this, don't hesitate. You can still go to the forum and ask us the question. We will definitely answer. And please try to avoid sending messages on WhatsApp because sometimes we are free to answer. Sometimes it's a little difficult for us to answer. Now, when you go in, I don't know, as a teacher, I have a slightly different interface. So let me go in as a student itself and do it. Okay, if you go as a student also, there'll be a lot of difference over here. A place where you can add a code. Okay, and you'll find that when you go in first time, it'll ask you to write the file name. Okay, so here you can write the code just like how you use code blocks or how you use Visual Studio Code or any other software. When you come here, you will find that there is this button to maximize. So it occupies more space and there is less distraction. And when you open and there are no files, you usually have a place to enter files. Please remember the rules for file naming in Python. So you can't keep a number in the start. You can't have minus signs and other things. So if you want a Python file, you can just put ex.py or anything, and you'll be able to create a new file. You can do a lot of stuff in this. For example, we can have like hello print hello world. Okay, and if you run this, it will not run. You will have to move this actually to the top. Okay, so once you move it to the top, you'll find that it will run. So let me save this file and let's run it. Okay, so when you run it, it will show hello world just like in your ID. Now I don't really need this file, so what I can do, I can go and delete it right over here. Okay, so now what happens is we have only two files. We have the ex1 underscore beam.py and another file named API key dot txt. Now we will be having somebody else evaluate your work. So for doing that, their system will have a different API key. So for that reason only we are separating the API key and the Beam program over here. Okay, so if you see here, we have got a small function which will read the API key from the file, okay, and put it into the correct location. Okay, so if you see over here, it will read the API key, okay, and it will store it in the mappy key. Okay, now if you have not had experience with functions before this point in time, just remember function is a small bit of code which will do the work which you will be doing repeatedly. So if you are repeatedly going to do some bit of code or run a small snippet of code, you will be better off putting it inside a function. Okay, so if this is required, we will be telling you how to do that. So for example, you can find the question over here. Okay, so in the question itself, we will be describing all the requirements which the file has to satisfy. Okay, or your submission has to satisfy. So please go through this. You'll find that what is here is what has been done over here. So for example, you need two files, beam underscore model .py. Of course, I have been a little naughty. I have named it as beam model. Okay. So in case you want to rename a file here, it is again very simple. So just go here, use this pencil icon. Okay. So because the program expects it to be beam underscore model, please keep it as beam underscore model. I got API key, so that's also fine. This is the run button. Run button will not be available till you save all the files. Okay. So if you see here, the function which I want you to use has also been given over here. Okay. So here I have actually made it a little improved so that the error handling, yeah, it's over here. Okay. So here, so including the usage example, it has been given. Okay. So please study the code. How is it that you will study the code? Go through the code line by line. Okay. Whenever there is this def, it will not be directly run. So Python will know, oh, there is some function defined because of this def command over here in the line 4. So if any time somebody calls MIDAS API, it will come to line 4 and execute all these lines of code. So now it comes to this fellow is again another def. So read underscore API is defined here. Okay. So this is the first line of code which is essentially going to be executed. So I say the path is API underscore key.txt because it is in the same folder, and I pass this to the function. So it will come over here. The control jumps from here to this function, and then it proceeds on. Okay. Now we will be explaining each and every one of these points. There will be document file inside the Moodle. In addition to that, you will be having some short videos. If suppose you are a more visual person to understand different concepts, and in addition to that, we will be trying our best to help you with every aspect. Okay. Now, when I run this code, okay, when I run this code, essentially this beam is expected to be generated. Okay. This beam is expected to be generated. Let's start with a new project. I just gave control in at this time. So a new project opens. The old project is getting closed. Just give it a minute. Right. So now the project is here. Actually, the key is the key which is stored in my API.txt is the same as this fellow. So I don't need to do any changes right now. Okay. So basically, one thing we know, whatever is the key which is there in API underscore key, it will be taken and replaced in the correct position. Okay. Now I am running this code. Okay. I'm running this code and it's starting to execute. You'll find that it is output is very similar to what you would have got in your Visual Studio code also. This is one of the programs which scripts which Midas has given to us to understand. Okay. So you can see that the code is running and it is generated the beam. Okay. So we will go through the lines of code in a separate session, but as of now, you will find that it has generated. Okay. Now, how is this happening? I will give you this example of WhatsApp. Please note, this is the basis of all the API functionality which we have. Okay. WhatsApp has API, Facebook has API. You'll go and see, so many places have APIs. And you'll also find a chat GPT has API. So what does it do? It'll say there will be a API endpoint. Okay. So and there will be there will also be a API key. So for example, this is the base URL. Okay. This is the base URL. This is the URL to which we have to connect. And then we have a key to tell that this is a valid person asking that request. So that's why that key is so long. It's very difficult to guess randomly that particular key, and that is why the key has to be kept secret. So basically what happens when you run the script, it is like asking a web server for a information. Now what happens is the information goes to the web server, which is in this case this MOA engineers.midasit.com. Then it will send the request back, or whatever is the output which has to be there, back to the device which has that API key. So when I say I am connecting to the API, I'm essentially uh, just a minute, please. Yeah, I am essentially connecting to the MIDAS server and saying that I am over here. So when somebody sends a WhatsApp message to you, the message starts from the originator, goes to WhatsApp server. WhatsApp server sees to which device I have to send this information back to. Essentially, that's like your API key. So it will not only be your telephone number which WhatsApp uses, it will use a encryption key and a lot of other things to be able to send it to the correct devices. Please note the plural because it can be to your mobile, it can be WhatsApp web, it can be to so many other places. In MIDAS, in the case of MIDAS, the API setting which is over here uh, uh, essentially creates a connection to the MIDAS server with this particular API. Okay, so now if you saw in the previous case, we had a 200 response. And those of you who have taken the time to refer to Dr. Shashanka Bhushan's reference on the response API, you would have seen that anything below 400 is a success message. But over here, can you see everything is 404? Okay. So for example, let's put a dummy website. Let's say I'm going to api.jsp.shiksha. Essentially, you'll get a server not found. Okay. Now let's go to something else. JSP.shiksha. I'm going to give a website URL which is not present. You'll find that it is giving a 404 error. Just that this is a little more pretty. Okay, it is prettier than what this one gave. So when 404 is there, it means there is no place where that particular place where you are trying to reach is not available. Okay, so now let us connect. Okay, let us connect and let us close. Again, I'm going to start a new project over here. Only when the new project is there, the API connections and all the things are going to be able to bring it back to that project. So just a minute. So yeah, now the whole thing is connected. Okay, let us run the same script again. Please note here there is a 404. 404 means it is it didn't the request was not successful. Okay, it couldn't do the needful. And when we do it here, okay, you will observe that you'll get 202 if I'm not mistaken, or 200. Let's just see what is the response we get. Right, see, it's a 200. 200 is a success code. 200, 201, all of them are success codes. So now when you go back here, we see that it is done. Okay, so guys, thank you. This essentially introduces to you what an API is, how the API works. API works in a very simple manner. There is a key to identify the client which is waiting for information from the server. So I send through Python a request. So instead of sending it back to me, it sends it to the MIDAS client, which is waiting for the information. Once a particular action is done, it will send it back as a success. And that is being sent to us from MIDAS server saying that, yes, what work you told me has been done by the script which you wrote. Okay, guys. So with this, I will stop today's session. Tomorrow, I would like to show a little bit of relationship between the different branches of engineering. And please do not think that you are not a civil engineer. Nobody here who's participating is a civil engineer. Every first year is a first year. no first year knows anything of this civil engineer or otherwise. What you guys are going to do is just learn the physics and you're going to see the physics in action. I sincerely hope you saw the first video. Anyways, we'll be asking you to go through it in a more controlled environment. So to showcase that, to tell us that you have actually gone through it. Okay. As always, if you have any doubts, please ask. And if you are not having any doubt, yes, you can leave the venue. But if any one of you has got, okay, 45% has used VPL, others who have not used, we'll have some sessions for you. Yeah, so we can, you can ask your Q&As. Okay, I'm just going to the Q&A section. Those of you, if you have any questions, please ask. Otherwise, you can leave. Thanks a lot for joining, all of you.